Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Session C of the International Conference on Innovation and Management, IAM 2026 Summer here in Kanazawa. I am privileged to serve as the session chair for this virtual presentation session. In this afternoon's session, we are delighted to feature 4 outstanding papers contributed by esteemed researchers. These works cover a dynamic and highly relevant range of contemporary topics, including digital payment systems, supply chain resilience, educational service ecosystems, and advanced strategic sustainability frameworks. Since this is a pre-recorded virtual session, we will proceed directly to the presentation videos prepared by our authors. Please sit back and enjoy these insightful scholarly contributions. Our first video presentation is titled A Study on Customers' Intention to Adopt Stablecoin Payment Systems. Let us begin the playback.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 International Conference on Innovation and Management Summer Conference. My name is Wan-Hsuan Chung, and I'm currently the second-year master student in the Department of Information Management at Donghai University. Today, I'm honored to share my research titled A Study on Customers' Intention to Adopt Stablecoin Payment System. If you are interested in my research topic or have any question after the presentation, please feel free to contact me via email. I will be very happy to discuss and exchange ideas with you. Now, I would like to begin my presentation. Let's talk about Chapter 1, Introduction. In recent years, stablecoins have gradually evolved from early cryptocurrency into the font of digital payments tool. With the rapid growth of USDT and USDC, the stablecoin market reached approximately 200 to 300 billion US dollars in 2025, showing their increasing mainstream adoption. At the same time, regulations such as the European Union's MiCA and the US Genius Act have further improved the literacy and acceptance of stablecoin in the financial stadium. However, customers' willingness to use stablecoin for daily payments is still influenced by factors such as security, trust, and convenience, and empirical research on the topic remain limited. Therefore, these studies extend the 10 models by incorporating perceived trust and perceived risk to explore the key factors influencing customers' intention to adopt stablecoin payment stadium. And my studies aim to develop and validate an extending 10 model to explore the key factors influencing customers' adoptions of stablecoin payment stadium. In particular, this research focuses on how perceived trust and perceived risk affect customers' perceptions and behavioral intention. It also examines the role of perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, and users' attitude within the overall model. Specifically, these studies attempt to address the following research question presented in the presentation. And in terms of the research scope and the target participant, this studies mainly focus on stablecoin as a payment tool rather than an investment asset. The studies specifically explore customers' intention to use stablecoin in scenarios such as daily transactions and online payments. In addition, the research focused on fiat-backed stablecoins such as Tethers and USD Coin because they offered relatively high price stability and particle value in real-world application. Finally, the main research participants are potential users in Taiwan who already have experience using digital payment service. Chapter 2, Literature Review. Overview of stablecoins. Stablecoins are designed to maintain price stability through the asset backing or agreematic mechanism. Stablecoin can be categorized into fiat collateralized, crypto collateralized, and agreematic stablecoins. Fiat collateralized stablecoins such as USDT and USDC maintain value through one-to-one received backing. Fiat collateralized stablecoins dominate the market due to higher trust, transparency, and stability. 10 model. 10 explain users' behavioral intention and adoptions of new technologies. Perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use are the core construct of 10 model. Perceived ease of use positively influence perceived usefulness and user attitude. 10 model has widely applied in e-commerce, mobile payments, and fintech research. These studies incorporate trust and risk factors to strengthen and explanatory power of 10 model. Perceived trust and perceived risk. Perceived trust is a key factor influencing users' adoption decision under uncertainty. Trust reflects user confidence in the reliability and credibilities of payment stadiums. Perceived trust can be positively influence usefulness, attitudes, and behavioral intention. Perceived trust refers to uncertainty and potential negative outcomes in technology usage. Perceived risk may reduce trust and negatively affect technology adoption intention. Let's talk about Chapter 3, Research Methodology. These studies adopt the 10 models as the theoretical foundation and incorporate perceived trust and perceived risk to explain customers' adoptions of stablecoin payment stadium. Since stablecoin payment involves both technological and financial characteristics, users are influenced not only by stadium's functionality but also by concerns regarding security, reliability, and uncertainty. Based on previous literature, these studies propose 9 research hypotheses showed in the presentation. Overall, these studies developed an integrated research framework to stadium-medically explain customers' adoption intention towards stablecoin payment stadium. These studies adopt a quantitative research approach to examine the proposed hypothesis. The target population consists of adult consumers in Taiwan. Data were collected through an online questionnaire survey. A total of 241 valid responses were obtained with an effective response rate of 96.4%. The questionnaire measured trust, rest, usefulness, ease of use, attitude, and behavioral intention using a 5-point Likert scale. Let's talk about Chapter 4, Result and Analysis. As you can see in these 4 figures, a total of 241 valid responses were collected for analysis. The gender distributions were relatively balanced between the male and female respondents. Most participants were aged between 31 and 35 years old. Most respondents hold a bachelor's degree or above. The sample shows adequate diversity and representativeness across different industries. Maximum model assessment. This figure shows combat alpha value and composite reliabilities result indicate strong construct reliability. And all average value exceeded the recommended threshold, demonstrating adequate convergent validity. And most factor loadings were above 0.7, indicated acceptable maximum quality. Several HTMT values exceeded the threshold due to the conceptual similarities among 10 constructs. Overall, the maximum model demonstrates satisfactory reliabilities and validities for further analysis. Let's talk about R-square. These studies employed smart PLS to test the proposed hypothesis using a significance level of P less than 0.05 and CR greater than 1.96. These studies use smart PLS to test the proposed hypothesis, and 7 out of the 9 hypotheses were supported. The result shows that perceived trust significantly enhanced perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. In addition, perceived usefulness and attitudes positively influence behavioral intention, while attitude shows the strongest effect. However, perceived trust doesn't significantly affect trust and behavioral intention. This may be explained by growing familiarities with digital payment and fintech service, which reduce the influence of perceived risk. Moreover, once basic trust is established, the effect of perceived risk may be offset by more salient factors such as usefulness and convenience. Moreover, the findings support the correlationship of the 10 models and highlight the important roles of trust and attitudes in stablecoin payment adoption. Let's talk about the F-square. As you can see, only the perceived risk show little to no effect on trust and behavioral intention. Chapter 5, Conclusion and Implication. In conclusion, the finding of these studies indicate the perceived trust plays a critical role in the stablecoin payments adoptions by significantly enhancing perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. In addition, the core relationship of the 10 models are strongly supported, and attitude is identified as the strongest predictors of behavioral intention. Interestingly, perceived risk doesn't show a significant effect in the study. This may be due to the users becoming more familiar with digital payments technologies and the gradual improvement of regulatory environments. From both theoretical and practical perspective, this study extending 10 models by incorporating trust and risk factors, while also highlighting the importance of trust building, usabilities, and user experience in promoting stablecoin payments adoption. From the practical perspective, this study highlights three important implications for stablecoin payment providers. First, trust building is the key foundation. First should improve transparency, strengthens security mechanisms, and ensures data privacy to increase users' confidence in stablecoin payment stadium. Second, companies should optimize stadium's functionalities and users' experience by simplifying procedures, improving efficiencies, and reducing transactions costs. This effect can enhance both perceived usefulness and ease of use. Finally, firms should promote positive users' attitudes through marketing strategies, trivial programs, and educational initiatives. This approach can help reduce adoption barriers and improve users' understanding and trust towards stablecoin payment stadium. Thank you for listening.
Thank you to the authors for the illuminating presentation. We will now move forward to our second paper, which explores crucial structural drivers in contemporary operations, titled How Firms Reconfigure Supply Chains Under Sustained Heightened Uncertainty, Structural Drivers of Risk and Resilience in Taiwan. Let us play the video.
Hello everyone, thank you for attending this conference and participating in my section. And I'm Chen-Hsiang Hong, and we are a research team from National Taiwan University in College of the Management. And I'm the corresponding author of this paper. And in this paper, we discuss how firms reconfigure supply chains under sustained heightened uncertainty, especially digging into the structural drivers of risk and resilience in Taiwan's company. Okay, so in the past, the supply chain issue is that how we find the most efficient way to deliver our products to the customer. But after the COVID-19 and also the trade conflicts and also some of the global environmental shock, we discovered that resilience is the most important thing over efficiency. So it's like a paradigm shift. In the old way, we only focus on the efficiency. But in the new reality, we combine lots of the consideration together. Yep. So why we choose Taiwan? Because it's an ideal research context under this kind of research topic. Taiwan serves as a critical point in the global supply chain. We have lots of leading OEMs, and also we serve global brand owners in semiconductor and also electronics value chains. And also we have deep dependencies to other kinds of suppliers and also the customer all over the world, because we need to import our materials and also need to export our products overseas. So we have compounded exposures to a lot of risk and a lot of uncertainty, including the export control and technology shock, and also the tension of the geopolitical and lots of other things that could severely influence our supply chain positions. So we collect the sample profile from face-to-face surveys of 241 CEOs and senior managers from Taiwan's leading companies, especially those is in the stock market. And the response rate was 100% because we do it face-to-face. So we tested 25 risk items spanning 6 domains and rated it in 5-point Likert scale, 1 to 5 over the past 2 to 4 years horizon. And we also tested 25 resilience strategies for the adoption status, and which means how companies adapt, and if the company is adapted already for loss of the resilience strategy, or they are just intend to, or they don't want to do so. So the outcome is that with our 25 risk items and also 25 resilience strategy, we cover above than 95% of variance we can explain. So we collected 6 latent dimensional supply chain risk, and within these 6 factors, it explained almost 65% of the variance in the perceived risk. So this 6 risk is the most influenced topic in the whole supply chain in Taiwan. The first is the operational change risk, including rising operation cost and also the supply chain disruption. And the second is market risk, including the inflation, exchange rate volatility, and also the demand unstable. And the third is the technology and innovation risk, including the disruptive technology and some of the transformation failure. And the fourth is the geopolitical risk, especially the US-China trade conflicts. And the fifth is the personal risk, including the pandemic and also the labor issues, and also how HR management the whole peoples in the company. And the sixth is the environment sustainability risk, including the climate change and also the pollution resource depletion. Okay, so the outcome shows that most of the CEOs and senior managers sees that the operational change is the most important with the highest score. As you can see, it's above like 4 points into the 4.25, and followed by market and geopolitical rounded around 3.8. And the environment and sustainability risk is the lowest. And this shows a classic gray rhino pattern because this is the highly probable and observable problem, but due to its long time horizon into the future, and what companies can do is very limited to the whole society and also the whole environment. So companies aware of this kind of risk, but they don't adapt a proper way, or they don't want to act a proper way in the short term run, just seeing it as a long term issue. Yeah, so let's point out some of the risk dimension and the priority. And this is the resilience strategy, what firms value the most. The first one is the CRM, customer relation management, with the highest rated score. And the second is big data analysis. And the third is R&D investment, and also the supplier diversification, and also the product portfolio diversification. So the 5 proposal of the resilience strategy here is that the companies value the most, and most of the company are intended to do so, or even they have done so. And we discover there is a governance gap between intention and implementation. In these pictures, you can see the blue box is the adoption rate, and the orange box is the conditional considerating rate. So no matter what kind of strategy in our resilience strategy platform, most of the companies choose to adapt it higher than the adoption rate over like 30%, or 25 to 30%. For example, or in nearshoring, only 22% of company has adopted, but 71% would consider. And regional supply chain, short supply chains, is with 30% of adopted, but over 76% would consider. So let's point out a gap between the intention and also the adoption rate. There is a big difference here, ranging from like 25% to even 40% in some of the category. Okay, so to solve the gap problem between the intention and the adoption rate, the previous page we have talked about, we propose a 3-stage framework of the supply chain risk governance. In stage 1, we propose that the company should use some of the defensive protection, which means that they could just find some of the supplier diversification and find some of the safety planning strategy to make the company run through the pandemic and also some of the short-term disruption. And in stage 2, we propose resilient supply chain design, which means that the company should redesign all the supply chain to make the operational and market and also the financial stability more resilient through future much more and more fundamentals transformation in their whole company, including their partner and also the network. And in stage 3, we propose that the company should also do the continuous operation via the ecosystem collaboration, which means they can like develop more opportunity within that ecosystem and even go through upstream of the supply chain or downstream their supply chain. Okay, so in conclusion, the contribution and implication of this paper is that we propose a multidimensional risk mapping for company to find out their risk, which kind of strategy is more proper to encounter that kind of risk, and what is the difference of the importance ratio across different kinds of risk. And the second contribution is that we point out the gap of the intention and implementation for the structural strategies. For example, the nurturing regionalization with high intention but low implementation gap, and how we solve it. And in our third contribution, we propose a stage governance framework for company to manage their supply chain more resilient, and for how company can do it step by step instead of only go through it in one direction. Yeah. So the major takeaway here is that resilience under deglobalization requires sustainable governance reconfigures, not isolated response. So the risk and the strategy is not isolated point to point. Instead, it's more likely that one of the strategy can solve like 2 to 3 risks, and some of the risk need multiple resilient strategy to solve it. Yeah. So this is our research. Thank you for listening.
An excellent analysis of modern supply chains. Next, our third paper shifts our focus to value co-creation within specialized educational environments, titled Value Co-creation and Service Ecosystem Formation in Educational Contexts, the Case of Science Exhibitions. Let us proceed with the presentation video.
Good day, everyone. My name is Yi-Chun Lin, and today I'm presenting my paper titled Value Co-creation and Service Ecosystem Formation in Educational Contexts, the Case of Science Exhibitions. Let's begin with the introduction. As the logic passes, the value is co-created through interactions among multiple actors, integrating resources within service systems, catalyze the formation of the service ecosystem concept. In Taiwan, the science exhibition for primary and secondary education involve the collaborative engagement of students, teachers, schools, and government agencies. However, how service ecosystems are formed within science exhibitions remains unexplored, which this study seeks to address. This research seeks to answer the following question. 1. How can a shared value proposition be established within the existing ecosystem of Taiwanese high school science exhibitions to align diverse stakeholders and facilitate resource integration? 2. How can value co-creation strategy and activity address stakeholder participation and resource commitment, thereby enabling the formation of a science exhibition service ecosystem? I will now turn to the literature review. First, service dominant and logic and educational value creation. Value is created through interaction among integrating knowledge and resources. In education, students, teachers, and institutions are all active resource integrating actors. Yet, secondary education contexts remain underexplored. This study extends SD logic into science exhibitions where learning, competition, and institutional pressure intersect. Second, value co-creation in educational ecosystems. Value co-creation is actor journey integrating resources to produce value. In education, it shifts learning to active participation, enhancing engagement and responsiveness. Sense suspicion are a rich co-creation site where value emerge through interactive interactions, and where co-creation generates tensions or unintended consequences remains underexplored. Third, service ecosystem formation in educational context. Service ecosystem theory conceptualizes value creation within interconnected actors, resources, and institutional arrangements. Students, teachers, schools, families, and public agency interact through formal and informal mechanisms. Yet, how a service ecosystem forms in education, in secondary science education remains underexplored. 4. Science suspicions as a attention-driven educational service ecosystem. Science suspicions are collaborative learning environments where multiple actors integrate resources to create value. Yet access to a matrix, facility, and networks is uneven distributed across schools. This produces conditions for both value co-creation and value co-destruction. Next, I will explain the research methodology. First, this study adopts a qualitative research approach, employing a case study design. Second, we interview a total of 6 informants, as shown in table. Finally, this study uses field observation, in-depth interviews, and document analysis. Now, let's turn to the research findings. This study shows a dynamic interplay between value alignment and structural tensions in Taiwan's high school suspicions survey ecosystem. Let us start with the first one, the construction and contestation of shared value propositions. Starting with dual value logic, educational ideas versus competitive outcomes. Science suspicion reveals fundamental tension between educational ideas and competitive outcomes. As they become tied to academic advancement, the focus shifts from learning to performance. As one teacher H1 knows, when science suspicions are tied to academic advancement, within become ultimate goal. Second, government agency and competition organization frame science suspicions as platforms for building scientific literacy and innovation. Third, the findings show that resource inequality affects the building of shared value propositions. Finally, despite these tensions, educators continue to work toward reclaiming the original educational value of science suspicions. Let us now turn to the second one, value co-creation strategy under institutional constraints. Starting with scarce co-creation and intensive teacher mediation, value co-creation is driven by teacher-student interaction, making teachers both central and overburdened. Second, at the ecosystem level, value co-creation is enabled through resource orchestration across multiple actors. Third, a lead school develops systematic training programs integrating course design and mentoring, making value co-creation highly structured. Finally, too much emphasis on performance leads to over-intervention, reduced student ownership, and resulting in value co-destruction. Let us now turn to the discussion. Starting with remaining value co-creation in educational service ecosystem. While a state logic passes, the value is co-created through resource integration. This study finds that competing value logic and institutional pressure may at once produce value alignment and value distortion. Second, from value co-creation to value co-destruction, a key contribution is identifying value co-destruction dynamic where actor interaction may lead to unexpected negative outcomes, resulting in both value co-creation and value co-destruction. Third, institutional logic and ecosystem governance. Institutional mechanisms both enable and constrain value co-creation, reflecting the complexity of managing relationships across government agencies, schools, and teachers. Finally, ecosystem formation as a attention-driven process. This study advanced attention-driven formation model of a high school suspicion service ecosystem, as shown in Figure 1. Under institutional arrangement, encompassing policy frameworks, keystone player, for example teachers, initial interaction led into attention box. Institutional mechanisms shape the value logic of different actors, with teachers caught between educational philosophy and performance pressure. When teachers are able to align their value propositions with those of other actors, students then flourish, giving rise to value co-creation. Conversely, when the value propositions of multiple actors diverge, students experience heightened stress, resulting in value co-destruction. Meanwhile, resource inequality, marginalized actors with scarce resource, producing primary value alignments. So there are three ongoing tensions. 1. Educational value versus competitive value. Such suspicion has shifted from comprehensive inquiry to chasing award, leading to adult over-intervention that undermine authentic learning. Second, resource integration versus resource inequality. Schools vary greatly in access to funding, facility, and university partnerships. Stakeholders actively respond by connecting schools with university professors and experienced teachers to reduce this inequality. Third, diverse in expectation versus shared value propositions. Governments emphasize scientific literacy, where school and parents focus on computational outcomes. This different expectation drive ongoing negotiation among actors. Let us now turn to the conclusion. This study examines the formation of a high school suspicion service ecosystem in Taiwan through a value co-creation lens. Ecosystem formation is shaped by competing institutional logics, uneven resource integration, and the coexistence of value co-creation and co-destruction. Theoretical implication has 3 points, and research limitations has 2 points. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Now, we come to the final presentation of Session C, introducing an innovative, integrated methodological framework, titled From Sustainability Disclosure to Strategic Improvement, an Integrated DANP TOPSIS Framework. Let us watch the final video.
Okay, so hello everyone. It's truly an honor to be here today to present my paper entitled From Sustainability Disclosure to Strategic Improvement, an Integrated DANP and TOPSIS Framework. So this study is a multidisciplinary research project that integrates machine learning technique and multiple criteria decision-making approach to address an accounting-related sustainability disclosure issue. The main purpose of this study is to identify the essential features across different dimensions within the SASB framework and to further determine the degree of improvement required for firms to achieve the sustainable development goal. By doing so, this study provides decision makers with a systematic approach for developing appropriate sustainability strategy while reducing avoidable resource losses. So this slide presents the outline of today's presentation. The first, I will introduce my other research background. Second, I will review the relevant literature. Third, I will explain the proposed research framework and empirical result. Finally, I will conclude with the major findings, major implication, and future research. So with the growing awareness of sustainability among stakeholders, firms are increasingly expected to demonstrate how they contribute to society and the environment while pursuing profitability. However, not all stakeholders are directly involved in corporate operations. Therefore, the sustainability disclosure has become one of the main channels through which stakeholders can evaluate whether firms are fulfilling their environmental and social responsibility. In recent years, many large international institutions and enterprises have begun to publish sustainability disclosure and regard this practice as an essential component of corporate strategy. According to the work done by Joseph in 2016, the minimizing negative environmental and social impact is a critical requirement for achieving sustainability. In addition, investors and lenders have increasingly demanded sustainability performance information to support informed decision-making and judgment. The Global Reporting Initiative, the GRI for short, a Sustainability Accounting Standard Board, SASB for short, are two widely adopted frameworks for sustainability disclosure. The former is generally stakeholder-oriented, while the latter is investor-oriented. Compared with extensive study on GRI-based sustainability disclosure, the research granted in SASB framework remain relatively limited. To fulfill this research gap, this study developed a structured decision-making framework to guide firms towards sustainability improvement within the SASB framework. So in this study, 31 criteria across 5 dimensions are considered. These 5 dimensions include environment, social capital, human capital, business model and innovation, and leadership and governance. In today's highly interconnected business environment, these criteria and dimensions are closely related to one another. Therefore, identifying the cause and effect relationship among criteria and dimensions has become an essential task. So moreover, in an uncertain business environment, the decision makers tend to collect as much information as possible to conjecture the current situation. However, much of this information is derived from financial statements, which may contain measurement errors, estimation bias, or reporting inconsistency. When decision makers are surrounded by excessive and potentially noisy information, their judgment may become confused or distorted. To address this issue, the feature selection is adopted in this study. The feature selection can generally be divided into 3 categories: filter-based, Whopper-based, and hybrid approach. A filter-based model evaluates the importance of variables based on their intrinsic characteristics, while a Whopper-based model relies on an embedded classifier to determine the relevance of each variable. Compared with the filter-based model, the Whopper-based model usually provides better predictive performance but are less efficient. Therefore, this study adopts a hybrid feature selection approach to combine the advantage of both 2 methods. The specifically relief is the first used to filter out irrelevant features, and then a decision tree is applied to conduct a second-stage feature selection process. Through this 2-stage refinement procedure, this study identifies the feature with the greatest influence. So after potential features are selected, the demand tail is used to illustrate the interrelationship among the features across different dimensions. Then ANP is then applied to derive the related importance of each feature. Finally, the analyzed results are incorporated into TOPSIS to evaluate improvement effort required for a firm to reach the aspiration level. And this slide presents the 31 indicators across 5 dimensions of the SASB framework. To interconnected relationship among these features, the questionnaires are distributed to 20 experts with at least 10 years of working experience, and 5-point Likert scale are adopted to collect expert evaluation. To conduct a feature selection a dependent variable had to be determined in advance. Therefore, the elbow method was used to identify the appropriate number of clusters, which was subsequently used as the class label. Based on the result, setting the number of clusters to 3 achieved the best performance. So this slide presents the selected features, which are then used to formulate the final questionnaire. The empirical results show that the environmental dimension is the most influential dimension because it has the highest positive D minus R value. This indicates that environmental issues serve as a key driving force in corporate sustainability disclosure. At the criterion level, the energy management policy is identified as the main causal criteria within the environmental dimension. This suggests that improvement in energy management may further influence emission control, operational efficiency, and broader sustainability practice. In contrast, the human capital is the most influenced dimension because it has the lowest negative D minus R value. Most criteria under this dimension, including labor relations, employee health and safety, the diversity and inclusion, belong to the effect group. This implies that human capital practices are more likely to be shaped by improvements in other sustainability dimensions, such as environmental management, social capital, business model innovation, and governance. Therefore, the results suggest that the corporation should prioritize environmental management as the key driving area, while recognizing that human capital performance can be improved indirectly through the broader sustainability-oriented strategy. From the managerial perspective, it is essential to identify the degree of improvement required for each criterion to reach the aspiration level. Therefore, the weight obtained from DANP are incorporated into TOPSIS to support the managers in formulating future-oriented policy and strategic action for achieving sustainable development goals. So this slide is our conclusion future work. The firm should not treat all sustainability disclosure criteria as equal important. Instead, they should prioritize criteria with stronger causal influence and larger performance gap, as improvement in this area may greater broader effect on overall sustainability performance. Second, incorporate DANP the right way into TOPSIS help managers understand how much improvement is required to reach a desired level of sustainable development, thereby supporting more effective resource allocation and policy formulation. So this is our limitation, right? To apply the proposed framework to firms in other countries and industry enhance the generalization ability. The second, the future research may integrate objective data such as ESG rating, sustainability report, a financial statement, and a market-based indicator to further validate the expert-based findings. Third, other advanced artificial intelligence approach or much more advanced natural language processing technique may be incorporated to extract the sustainability-related information from large scale of textual disclosure, thereby improving the efficiency and objectivity of sustainability assessment. So this slide conclude this slide is our conclude our presentation, and I need to say thank you for your attention. So I also provide my contact information. If you have any question, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
This concludes all the pre-recorded video presentations scheduled for Session C. On behalf of the IAM 2026's Organizing Committee and the Society for Innovation in Management, SIAM, I would like to express our profound appreciation to all the authors for their meticulous preparation and for sharing their valuable research with our global community today. The 4 papers presented in this session have offered highly stimulating insights. We have explored the frontiers of digital finance through stablecoin adoption dynamics, examined operational resilience through the structural drivers of supply chains under uncertainty in Taiwan, analyzed value co-creation within the specialized lens of educational science exhibitions, and reviewed robust strategic sustainability frameworks via the integrated DANP TOPSIS approach. Each of these rigorous works deeply embodies the core mission of the IAM conference: to foster meaningful innovation and bridge theory with managerial excellence. I would also like to extend my gratitude to our virtual audience for joining us and supporting this session. To foster continuous academic dialogue, we highly encourage you to connect directly with the authors using the contact information provided in the conference proceedings for further inquiries or potential collaborations. Thank you once again for your vital participation. Please enjoy the remainder of the sessions ahead. Session C is now formally adjourned. Thank you very much, and goodbye.